So for the fish prep, we have a very tiny onion. We have a garlic clove. We have salt and pepper. We have some celery, olives. We've got raisins that have been plumping in water for a couple of hours. We have a bay leaf. Again, this is optional. It gives great flavor, but if you don't have it, no worries. We have pine nuts. You could certainly sub in almonds if you want to. We have some vinegar here. This is red wine vinegar. We have a tomato, some parsley, and some capers. And the capers that I'm working with are packed in salt, so I'm going to want to rinse them before I use them. And of course, the Arctic char. We want to get our onion, our garlic, and our celery going in a skillet. So you have, your onion has two parts. It's kind of hard to see on a very tiny one, but this is what I had in the house. You have the part that can hang from a Christmas tree. It's got like a little ornament kind of look to it. And you have the bearded end. And the bearded end is where all the layers converge. So you want to keep that end attached. Okay, so you're going to go through the onion in half. You're going to cut off that Christmas ornament end. And then you're going to peel. So you can see that we've got that bearded end still attached here. You're going to put your hand flat on top of the onion. So go through the onion, end to end, but not all the way through. And then cut towards the root end, not all the way through it. And then make a series of cuts towards the root end, going from top to bottom. And this really minces up your onion very nicely. And you never go through the onion like this, because this is what ends up making the onion very, very acrid. So again, towards the root end. Towards the root end. Your hand is on top to stabilize. Towards the root end. Following the grain of the onion. And the final cut minces the onion. You want to cut off that little end on the bottom, which is hard. And then whack it to get rid of the skin. And then give the garlic a good little whack. So whack it, and that starts to kind of get it to crush down. And we want to mince it up. Your garlic, your celery, and your onion are all going to cook together, so we can put them all in one bowl. You want to take your celery and just cut into sticks. So maybe take the whole celery, cut into 3 or 4 pieces to make it easier to handle. And then make sticks out of each portion. It might be easier if you turn it around so there's a flat side. Okay, again, sticks. And then line up all the sticks. And then just kind of thinly sliced. So we're not really going for a very fine mince, but you want something fairly small. So your tomato, we're going to cut off that stem end. Just kind of get that stem out, okay? And then we're going to cut this into slabs. Just thick slices. And put the slices so that they're all facing up as opposed to with the skin side facing you. It's very hard to cut through the skin. So in a tomato, in a squash, etc., it's easier if the skin isn't facing up. So then you cut it into sticks. You're going to line up your sticks, and you're going to cut your sticks into cubes. And you want the tomatoes to be just about the size of, I want to say, a small crouton. This is maybe about 1/2 inch cubes. And any juice that comes out of the tomato, please keep it. Seeds, juice, all that goodness. Keep it all. I'm going to rinse my capers because my capers are packed in salt. So I don't want that saltiness. It's way too salty. So we want to chop up those capers. If they're very tiny, you don't need to worry about chopping your capers. My capers are on the large side, so I want to chop them up. So these are pitted. I'm just going to cut them in half, and then each half I'm just going to kind of slice. You can use whatever kind of olives you like for this. Green, black. You can use spicy olives. And the parsley is going to be a garnish, so we're not going to be sautéing it. I like to keep the parsley kind of in biggish pieces so that it gives some flavor when you garnish with it. It's not just some green flecks. So I kind of like to keep it a little bit coarse, not too fine. We're going to be sautéing the sauce first for the fish. So we're building the sauce, and the fish only cooks for about 5-6 minutes in the sauce, maybe 10. It depends on its thickness. So you can get your sauce going, make it all the way to the point where you add the fish ahead of time, turn it off, and then when you're ready, especially if you're entertaining, this is a great thing to know, you just put in your fish and you finish cooking it. That's it. So we're going to start by building the aromatic base. You want to put your skillet on the heat, and before there's even any heat in it, put in your olive oil, okay? So you don't have to heat the skillet and then heat the oil. You're putting the oil in a skillet that's not hot. And in that, we're going to cook our celery, our onions, and our garlic. So there's no hissing sounds. Why? Because I didn't preheat the skillet, I didn't preheat the oil. And the reason I want to do this is that I want to draw the flavor from the onions, the garlic, and the celery gently, slowly, softly. So now my flame is on. We've got this on a medium heat, medium high. And we're really just looking to coax some flavor from the onion, the garlic, and the celery for about 5 minutes or so before we go to the next step. I'm going to add the pine nuts here. So I'm adding my pine nuts now. I want to get a little bit of color on the pine nuts, just a small bit of color. Just kind of the aroma to build up, even more than color, just the aroma. I'm going to give that about maybe 30 seconds. Here we go. Olives, capers, raisins, it's starting to smell really, 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 really good. So that right there is the key to this dish. It's that sort of sweet and sour thing that's going on. So you can see that my pine nuts have got a little color to them. We want to let that cook a very short time before we add our tomatoes and our vinegar and our bay leaf. So when it starts to smell really good, go by smell. You want to smell the capers and the olives, but you don't want them to be overwhelmingly shriveled up. Add your tomatoes. Add the vinegar. We're going to season with some salt and some pepper. It's very important. We're going to put in water. So we're going to put in some water, about a half a cup of water. And we're going to put in a bay leaf. So our bay leaf is going to give this amazing aroma, but only if it's nestled inside. So you want to make sure that you nestle that bay leaf underneath the other ingredients. The goal here is to always have about 1/4 to a half a cup of liquid in the pan. That's really important. So you see how it's a little soupy? Okay, that soupiness is really key. You want it to be a little soupy. When we put in the fish, it's going to be a little bit drier. So you want some liquid for that fish to cook through properly. Now that it's come to a boil, make sure that your bay leaf is nestled nicely inside so it gives flavor. Put on the lid. drop the temperature to like a simmer, and then you can walk away from this for about 15, 20 minutes while you do other stuff, and you don't have to think about it. I'm lightly seasoning my fish with salt and pepper. I would suggest that you do the same, because when your fish goes into the sauce, you want it to taste just as good as the sauce. So you don't want to have this delicious sauce and a flat piece of fish going in. So let's put our fish in. And let's cover the skillet so that the fish cooks right in that sauce. And now I'm going to spoon some sauce over the Arctic char. This is going to help it cook through, and of course it's going to flavor it from the top down. I'm going to cover my skillet here with the fish. Let's take a look at our fish. So you can see my fish is coming along. It's a little bit soft in the middle compared to the bottom. The way to gauge if your fish is cooked is the firmness and the opacity. So if it is translucent, it's not cooked. And if it's soft, it's not cooked. The bottom, where it's thinner, is firm. The middle, where it's thicker, is very soft. Okay? So that's what tells you it's not done. I'm going to need about another 30 seconds on that. Our Arctic char is ready. It's beautiful. It smells great. We have plump raisins. We have golden pine nuts. We have that tomato that held its shape. It's not jammy. It just gave us beautiful sweetness. The fish is moist. It's not overcooked. It's just perfect. It came together beautifully. So you can enjoy this at room temperature the next day. If you happen to have any leftovers, do not reheat it. Fish is not really very good when it's reheated. It's better off just brought to room temp out of the fridge and enjoyed over greens. Nice and hot. This is beautiful. You don't even need a little hint of lemon. It has all the acidity it needs from the olives and from the capers. It was a pleasure making this with you. See you again soon.